Hey moms, it's Laura Ollinger. Welcome to the Positively Healthy Mom podcast. So today, welcome, we have Jodi Rae Solomon, who I'm so excited to introduce to you. She and I have known each other for a few years now from the Neuroencoding Institute. And I've just gotten to know Jodi over a few years now, and I just really enjoy her presence. There's just something so calming about her. I can't wait for you guys to hear from her because she's just amazing. So Jodi, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, tell us about your family and what you do.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Laura, for having me here. So my name is Jodi Rae Solomon. I'm the Soul Amazing Coach. I'm actually an ICF credentialed coach, which is International Coaching Federation. I'm a board certified coach. I'm a trainer for Robbins Research International, and I'm an elite neuroencoding specialist. And what that means is that I've been highly trained in several modalities by some really top names in the fields of behavior modification and human transformation. I was living in St. Augustine, Florida for the last 2 years. But as of a week ago, I now have taken to the road and I live in a camper van, just
That's awesome.
me and my dog, traveling the entire United States.
Wow.
It's a total life of adventure. The saying, adventure awaits. Well, for sure, I am living that total freedom and adventure. I'm a mom of 2 adult children. They are ages 25 and 27. And I have 2 amazing grandbabies. One is 2 years old. My grandson is 2 years old, and my granddaughter is 6 months old.
Oh, that's awesome. And I love seeing them, all your pictures that you post. They're adorable. And you're so lucky. You're a mom and a grandma. And so I'm so curious. I wasn't planning this question, but what made you decide to go out on the road? That's so fun and adventurous of you.
I listen to my soul. And that's truly when we tap into who are we, what is our purpose, what are our driving needs. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about human needs today.
Yeah.
And when I looked at what my human needs were and what some of my values were, I really enjoy uncertainty and I love adventure. You couple that with travel, because I could not decide, like, where do I want to go live. I thought, there's just so much I want to see. So why not go see it all?
That's awesome. You're so lucky you have the opportunity. So that's the perfect transition into our first topic today, which is the 6 human needs. So as a Robbins international trainer, Robbins Research International trainer, you're very, very familiar. And that's why I wanted you to come on and explain the 6 human needs, because I find that I use these all the time. I use them with my teenage clients, and that helps them so much kind of understand themselves. And when something's happening, here, let me give you a quick example. I have a client who, a teenage girl, 15 years old, and she got asked to the homecoming dance by a boy that she is not interested in. She doesn't like him. She has no desire. Except she said, I'm finding that I'm really enjoying the attention that he's giving me and lots of the texts and da. So it was so awesome because I had taught her the 6 human needs in the past. So it's so great because whenever I'm using this with a client, they're like, oh, it's like that light bulb comes on and they're like, that's why it feels this way, or that's why I'm doing this. And so between that and then moms, which is our bigger topic today, we are going to be talking about how the 6 human needs impacts moms. I just find that, like, this is a kind of like a building block, like a base piece of information that everybody should know. So why don't we start off, like, you kick off and tell us about those, and I'll kind of just jump in and we'll just talk about them.
Absolutely. So the 6 human needs, the way Tony Robbins defines it, you have first, and these are not in any specific order, FYI. So the first human need we have is certainty. And this is where I really need to know the answer before I take an action.
Mm-hmm.
Second human need, which is the polar opposite, is uncertainty. I don't want to know. I want to not be aware. Now, the interesting thing about these two needs is you can't have one without the other. So people think I have to choose certainty or I have to choose uncertainty.
Mm.
And the reality is that what we do is we maybe put one of those needs first.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm choosing to put certainty more important than uncertainty, but it doesn't mean I don't want uncertainty. It just means I
Mm.
need a much lower degree of uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
our first two needs are going to be certainty and uncertainty.
Okay.
Our next two needs are going to be love and connection and significance. Now,
Mm-hmm.
most people will rather settle for connection because they don't feel like they're worthy of love.
Oh,
So, but love and connection go together.
okay.
And then their polar opposite, obviously, is that significance piece.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why it becomes polar opposite in this is because when I seek significance, I'm looking to put me first.
Right.
And that is the cutoff from love and connection.
Yeah.
Because if I'm putting me first, I can't connect with you because now
Mm.
I take more importance.
Mm.
However, when I'm seeking a love and connection, I really want to also have some significance because I'm going to find some significance in the fact that I'm loving or having a love and connection need met.
Hmm.
So again, these two
Ah.
needs go hand in hand. It's literally just the percentage in which one are we focusing on the most.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So we have certainty, we have uncertainty, we have love and connection, we have significance. Now, the last two needs are what Tony refers to as the needs of the soul. And what that means is the first four needs we spoke about, everybody has those as a driving force at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But the needs of the soul is what our soul needs. And we don't always recognize that we should move those up. Let's just call it the food chain, so to speak. And the needs of the soul are contribution and growth. And the reality of life is that if I'm not growing, I'm dying. And if I'm not giving back to others in some way, then I don't feel complete. So
Mm.
our top or our six human needs are going to be certainty and uncertainty, love and connection, and significance, and growth and contribution.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the thing about six human needs is now that we understand we all have all six of those needs, the
Right.
question becomes which one do you value the most?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, if you were to think about that, which two needs would be the top two needs that in most situations you would be driving to meet first? Now, when I got involved with Tony Robbins and Robbins Research International and all of personal development, 7 or 8 years ago, I'm not going to lie, my top two human needs were certainty and love and connection. I needed to know the answer. And
Mm.
in my need to know the answer, I also needed to know that you loved me. Because at that
Mm.
point, I didn't recognize that love was actually something that I give, not that I get. So
I'm so glad.
yeah. Go ahead.
I'm so glad you're reminding me of that concept because, this is a refresher for me. I know these needs. I've done UPW with Tony Robbins. I've been trained on these needs. But sometimes, we forget. I have so much information in my brain. And when I'm teaching these to my clients, I think that's such an important thing that you just pointed out about the love is the giving love. It's not about
Right.
the receiving love because I think, that can often get a little bit murky with which I think we're going to get into in a little bit, but just like I think that's a great point to just to clarify what that really means.
So, my top two human needs when I got into personal development were certainty and love and connection.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have been in personal development probably, 7, 8 years now. And as I have grown, my needs have shifted. This is normal for everyone. And so now my top two human needs are actually love and connection and growth.
Cool.
My third need would probably be uncertainty. My fourth need would probably be contribution. My fifth need would probably then become certainty. My sixth need would be significance. So significance for me is way at the bottom because I'm more about what can I give, what can I learn, what can I contribute, and how can I have fun in that process long before I need to know the answer and be important.
Yeah. So, how do you feel like these needs can apply to a mom in just everyday life? Like she's going through her day, when your kids were back in the house, you remember what it's like, waking up and going to school and doing the whole routine with dinner and sports and athletics or whatever, activities they're involved in and homework and bedtime and, actually, I go to bed before my high schooler, so bedtime is not like a thing for me anymore. But my younger kids are in bed, and I go to bed, and so it's like we go through our days. And I'm wanting to kind of explain to the audience, like, how can this information like apply to them, but then help them as well?
So let's just say your child is having a meltdown because they don't want to go to school tomorrow. When we ask a quality question about what's going on for them and we dig underneath what's happening, we can understand that perhaps they don't want to go to school because they don't have their homework done, and not having their homework means for them that they're going to lose significance. They're not going to be found important anymore, and maybe that's a driving need for them. Or maybe your child is having a meltdown because someone at school is making fun of them, and one of their top human needs is love and connection. And when somebody is bullying them, they have an instant loss of love and connection. So understanding like what is the need that they're driving towards can help you to understand how to support your child, because now you can decide, okay, if my child's top need here that they're driving towards is love and connection, what can I do to support them to still feel love and connection and yet, navigate through that struggle of being bullied? Or maybe their top human need is certainty, and they gotta know, and man, they are upset because they failed on that test and they feel like, but I should know. Well, when we understand that their top need is certainty, now we can adjust how we show up for them so that we're providing certainty for them in those moments.
That's so great. And I find that's true with a lot of my clients and my daughter as well, who, they have a little bit of the anxious side to them, the little anxious edge going, and they want a lot of certainty with their social life, but they also want a lot of certainty with their academics. And so that was the perfect example that you gave, like as a mom, if we're kind of like understanding like, what is the driving need here behind, what they're expressing, then it helps us then be able to kind of adapt into how we can parent them and how we can mother them and be there for them. That's so awesome. So, okay, I have another challenge question for you. I find that teenagers are really into the need of significance. And it's not just me finding this. This is just kind of like a thing, it's social media is so, relevant in their lives as far as all the likes they're getting and who's posting what and how many views they've gotten and all their things, right? And it's just so strongly driven about this. Oops, something happened. Their need for significance. And so how do you as a mom, then this is a developmental thing. Like we know this is a developmental thing that they then do kind of grow out of. But as a mom, how do you parent to that when they're just so kind of like hyper fixated on that need for significance?
That's a great question. So first of all, understanding that need for significance is also very much tied to the developmental stage that they're in,
right?
With the social structures that they're in. Because, like I said, every single human has those 6 human needs. Everyone needs significance.
Yes.
the question then becomes, how do we lower the importance of significance?
Correct. Yes.
And so this is where, understanding your child even more can help. When you ask those quality questions,
Mm-hmm.
why is this important?
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, who specifically is important? Because we know they want to find significance. And our goal is, can we help them to find significance in something else?
Right.
So that they're not focused on, Johnny isn't giving me the attention that I want. And so I
Right.
feel less than, and I don't
Yeah.
feel significant enough. So
Mm-hmm.
we can help them to focus on, tell me, what other areas of your life do you find yourself feeling significant?
Mm-hmm.
Would it be a situation where we look at Johnny and say, what are Johnny's top human needs? Is it possible that Johnny isn't actually, telling you there's something wrong with you, that Johnny is driving towards his need for significance? And so
Mm-hmm.
by helping our children to shift into looking at someone else and what their needs are,
Mm-hmm.
it gets us out of our head,
Yeah.
into our heart, and allows us to shift the focus of our needs, so that now we're getting more towards the growth and contribution, which are the needs of the soul.
Right.
And it helps us to shift the hierarchy of what our needs are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the other thing I've kind of observed, just like I said, through my clients and my own teenage kids, is that I don't feel like their contribution need is very high in this developmental stage. They are so kind of focused on like the four basic needs that are, very much there. I feel like they're in survival mode. They just need to like get through their day, get through their week, just kind of doing everything they need to do. They're kind of so much in almost like a fight or flight on a very regular basis. And so it's like they never really quite get to that level of contribution. And what I found is like that's just like in kind of a maturity thing, a developmental stage, like it will happen. But sometimes I found that some of my clients like desperately need to get out of their own kind of internal world when they're a little bit hyper fixated on, me. And I kind of give them some ideas, like what else, I ask those quality questions, like kind of get them out, like what else could make you feel good? Because a lot of what I work on with my clients is confidence. And so we know if we're kind of giving and serving, that makes us feel some good self-worth inside. So how do you kind of like shift that, to get them to see a different perspective?
That's a great question. Um, the power of story is so important.
Mm-hmm.
When you are sitting in a movie theater, I just take a moment and imagine yourself right now sitting in a movie theater, and you are munching on your popcorn and you're so involved in what's happening on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are you with me?
I'm with you.
What are you focused on?
I'm just in the story. I'm completely, in that
Right.
moment.
You're focused on the screen, you're focused on the story, you're focused externally.
Mm-hmm.
You're no longer focused on what's happening in here.
Mm.
So when we use the power of story with our children, and perhaps we tell a story in a very intriguing way that grabs their attention, the subconscious brain thinks, I don't need to learn anything right now. I'm just going to relax.
Uh-huh.
And because it relaxes, all that new information is now able to go straight in there without any resistance.
Ooh, cool.
And so if we were to use the power of story more often with our children, so
Mm-hmm.
they don't recognize that they're learning and the subconscious relaxes, it allows them to start to get out of their own way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. I think that's such a great way to explain it and to illustrate it to moms. In fact, we can even teach the moms right now a frame that we use in our coaching, which is the feel, felt, found but we can almost put it kind of a little bit of a twist on that. So let's explain what that is. One of the awesome things about being a coach is that we can use our own personal information. We can use our own story, our own lives as an example for our clients. And so the feel, felt, found frame is, when we're experiencing an emotion of a client, and in this case, we're talking to mom, so it's your kids, you're feeling this emotion. And you can really feel that, you say, oh, I really feel your frustration, or I feel your anxiety. I feel your sadness, whatever that emotion is. I feel your boredom. I feel your dissatisfaction, whatever that is. And then we say, you know what? I have felt that way before too. I felt sad before. Fill in the blank, right? I felt that way before. And what I found is, and that one might be a great spot to insert a story, is when I was growing up, or, when your niece had the same problem, right? Because a lot of times they don't want to hear our old people's stories, right? We have to put it in more relevant stories. So you might want to find like a current person, like your cousin, when I said niece, I meant like my child's cousin. Your cousin had a similar struggle. And what she did was fill in the blank. What do you think about that? And it kind of like then puts that back on them, and it gives their brains a chance to kind of process that information and kind of relive it a little bit in that story form. So what do you think about that as an idea to give moms?
I think that's a really great idea. And I love that you, made to stress the point that it needs to be relevant.
Yeah.
Because I have used in the past that whole story. Well, I feel that, I understand, I can appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
And I found when I went through this as a child, and what I actually found was, because I was relating it to my story,
Mm-hmm.
my child at 15 said, you still don't get me, Mom.
Right.
Because they saw the age gap.
Yeah.
Life was so different for you, Mom. You don't really understand. So it was a really key point that you made, that we need to make it relevant to today for our children, for them to hear us, because hearing is half the battle.
It really is. It really is. It's like they have those little kind of earmuffs on. They don't want to listen to what we have to say. Like they don't want to get it from us. Like, and that's the thing. So what would be a way to, you said lift the resistance by getting into story, and with the example I gave, I'm trying to find tools for moms that they can use today, like this afternoon with their kids. Like what would be a way? Like I said, relate it to somebody that they know that's their age. Like, do you have any other ideas of another way to do it?
And I use this one with a lot of my adult clients as well. And, hey, could you imagine if your friend Susie was in the same situation? What advice do you think you might give her?
I love that question.
Because any way you slice it, we already know our answers.
Yeah.
Even when our child says, I don't know, my favorite response is Tony Robbins' response. I know you don't know, but if you did know, what do you think the answer would be? And so we can use that with our kids. We can also, say to them, hey, if your friend Susie was in this same situation and she was coming to you with this stuff, what would you say to her?
Yes.
Because that gets them out of themselves and into that other perspective. It totally shifts it.
That's such great advice. I use those types of questions with some of my clients sometimes when they're having a hard time making a decision about something. They can't decide how to handle something, and I do exactly what you just said. And I love the part about if you don't, because kids they do say I don't know a lot. And I have one client who's this boy, he's 13, and I mean I can't tell you how many I don't knows I hear in a single session. And every time I turn it back on him and I say, if you did know, what would it be? And he gets a little mad because he knows but he knows he kind of then has to work a little harder, like find an answer, and he does. But it's such a great way to do that. So
the reality with I don't know is that there's an automatic resistance. And I get the I don't knows with adults too, because our brain we have a 2 million-year-old brain that is in survival mode. And we have something called an inner critic. And that's that voice in your head that is always, let's just call it feedback. It's giving you feedback, and it's not always the most positive feedback. And so that feedback automatically stands up and puts resistance to the idea of sharing whatever is actually come up the first time. And it could be motivated out of, I'm afraid of what your reaction is. So if I tell you, I'll lose love and connection. It could be that, you know, I'm not 100% sure that this is the right answer, and I always need to be right. And if I'm not hitting that human need of certainty, I'm not going to speak. So I'll say, I don't know. So there's lots of various reasons why a person will say, I don't know immediately.
I love that.
When we get past that resistance, and if you did know, it gives the subconscious permission to take a risk.
Yeah. I love that. I do a lot of like brainstorming with my clients as well. We just kind of like randomly will come up with ideas, and you know, a lot of times if they're feeling a little bit shut down or resistant, you know, I'll start by giving, you know, I'm like, I'll go first. I'll give my brainstorm first, and then and it kind of gets them going. But it's just unlocking them, because a lot of times they are, you know, in that shutdown for whatever need, you know, that you're talking about. So I love that you explain that for the moms. I'm going to pause this conversation with Jodi. If you'd like to hear more, listen to my next episode of The Positively Healthy Mom. Thank you for listening to the Positively Healthy Mom podcast, because there's no manual for the hardest job in the world. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends.